Hello, Danvers, and welcome to Lead On. My name is Gayla Bartlett, and as you know, this show is all about community leaders out there doing wonderful things for our community and those that surround our area. Today, I am very happy to have with me Sally Kerans, our state representative, who's also a dear friend. Hi, Sally. How are you today?
Hello, Gayla. How are you?
I am great.
You're sparkly as usual.
And you look lovely. Being a state representative right now in the world of economic, political, uncertainty, divisiveness, we could go on for hours. What are you working on as our representative? First of all, I'd like you to tell our viewers what areas you represent.
Well, thank you. Thank you for welcoming me. Thank you for the leadership that you bring to Danvers. You recruited me into Kiwanis.
I did.
It's been wonderful. We had that most recent get-together where we helped Sammy with his heart project.
Yep, yes we did.
So I thank you for that. I am the state representative for the 13th Essex District. I like to think of it as Lucky 13. And that includes all of Danvers, Peabody Ward 6, Middleton Precinct 2, Topsfield Precinct 2, and Wenham Precinct 1A. So it's a wonderfully varied district from, a town of 8,000 to we're 28,000. I have two senators, Senator Lovely, and I know you visited with her recently. She represents Danvers and Peabody. My other three communities are represented by Senator Bruce Tarr, who is a Republican and the minority leader. And what that means is we work very closely in a bipartisan way here in Massachusetts. That isn't to say, and they're all wonderful partners, by the way, but that isn't to say that we are not in a time with this cloud hanging over us due to federal action and federal inaction. I spoke yesterday with a gentleman who works with a vaccine company here in Massachusetts, and he talked about the ramifications for the bio and life sciences industry, and specifically for anybody who works with the FDA and the CDC, and the widespread ramifications of these funding freezes, massive layoffs. I've heard from families in my town whose daughter works at NIH. She lost 3 staff last I spoke with them. That was about 3 weeks ago. Their son-in-law, a lifetime career guy with USAID, goodbye. A woman in Peabody whose son is now 31 and has worked really hard for many years to become a foreign service officer. Very difficult path.
Right.
Completely uncertain as to what his fate will be. So it's disruptive to people. It's hurtful to people. And it's creating this terrible uncertainty. And the markets don't like uncertainty.
Right.
So with all of that, we do, though, have to be mindful that we can't, on the state level, replace every federal dollar. We just can't.
Right.
But that's not to say that there aren't things that we are looking to do so that we can, you can't even really minimize. It is such chaos and disruption on a wide scale. I mean, they've really taken you've heard it, they've taken a buzzsaw, and there's no thought, there's no analysis. So that's the backdrop against which we now start our 194th legislative session in the Commonwealth, and we will tackle our budget. The governor has released her budget, House 1. We've had one Ways and Means hearing so far, two Ways and Means hearings so far. We will have a total of 6 around the state, and we will vet the governor's proposal. Now, for instance, the governor's budget calls for cuts in mental health, both in caseworkers, 2 hospitals for children, one in, I think, Tewksbury, the Pocasset program on the Cape. Yeah, so I personally, I don't know anyone who agrees with those cuts. Now, we will look at her proposals, at the governor's proposals, and then we will have our own version, And I will be working hard, and I know others will as well, to push back, particularly on children's mental health cuts. And I have a feeling, whether an agency head said, okay, fine, here are some really bad cuts, and maybe that will. And the governor did walk back the Pocasset, I believe is the name of it, the Children's Mental Health Hospital. So we have a long way to go. I hope that gives you some reassurance. These are not definite decisions. Elsewhere in the budget,
just the way the world is right now, and our children, and all the mental health crisis, and the suicide rates, and even in our Danvers schools, they need the funding, and it's just heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking, and if you ever, and I know you have, and I have attended meetings of Danvers Cares, just talk to anybody who works in a school, and they will tell you.
Yep.
So I'm reaching into my pocket for my card, which is something of use to people. This is the Behavioral Health Helpline.
Mm-hmm.
It's 833-773-2445. I'll show it to the camera over here, and maybe they can put this up as a graphic. I don't know.
Absolutely.
But help is here, and we do have services in place, and we do need more. But the behavioral health line came out of a huge behavioral health initiative 4 years ago, the Children's Behavioral Roadmap. So we have a good infrastructure here in our state, and that will help. But we sure as heck need to push back on these federal cuts, and we need to do all we can in our own budget. The other elements of the budget that give me pause are things that we think of as the safety net. Personal care attendants for elders and people with disabilities. Mm-hmm. Literally their lifeline.
Yeah.
They don't make a living wage.
They don't.
So I sat next to a personal care attendant at a briefing, and she has to work another job. So we need to acknowledge that there are caregiving occupations, and they need to make living wages.
Right.
So that's another area of the budget. Senior care,
mm-hmm.
Education, and that includes using Student Opportunity Act funding to make sure that there is one bill that has been filed by Alice Peisch, and I think I forget the Senate sponsor, but Rep. Alice Peisch, she's a assistant majority leader, very bright, authored the Student Opportunity Act, and she has filed legislation that will help buffer whatever comes in the way of eliminating the Department of Education and its ramifications for special education in particular. So we are being thoughtful and trying to anticipate federal fallout and how we can keep our students, seniors, folks with disabilities moving along, and our economy. Our economy depends on all of these things.
So businesses that are going to get shut down because of the layoff, it's horrifying.
Yeah, it's terrible. This gentleman I spoke with yesterday, the company he works with is in Waltham, and they were planning to expand, and Waltham loves having them there. Millipore Sigma up at Cherry Hill Industrial Park, or Abiomed. I'm sure they're all watching very carefully and thinking what it will mean, and it will have ramifications for any host community, including Danvers. And it comes at a time, by the way. One of the local things that I've been working on since I was elected 4 years ago, I'm starting my third term.
Wow.
And it's the second time I'm starting a third term. So technically I'm in my fifth. But 4 years ago, right out of the gate, I determined that we had to work with the MBTA to get our downtown bus stop restored. Economic vitality. Mm-hmm. Yes, transportation to other places that will get you where you want to go on the North Shore. Mm-hmm. And we are making great headway on that. So just as, communities are stepping up, we've got this terrible uncertainty on the federal level. Anyway, so that's part of my local agenda. I also have refiled the legislation to require Beverly Airport to collect noise data and for Mass Aeronautics to post it on their website.
Which is great, because that has been a huge hot button for this community.
And that's not a hard thing to do.
Right.
That is not a hard thing to do. I listened to, or I read coverage of the new director at the airport, who seems like a very nice fellow. I think he's not realizing how exhausted people are, the Beaver Park neighborhood in particular. And I think they've just kind of given up on filing those reports because nothing ever happens with them. So I like to think that maybe we can get movement on that bill this year as a kind of a nudge.
Yeah.
And then once we have some data and we can show it to Mass Aeronautics, we can suss out, well, is it because Lawrence Airport is sending student pilots down our way? Is it something else? So there's some work to be done there. I congratulate our new town manager.
Yes.
Jill Cahill.
5-0.
Unanimous. Very good new chapter in our community. I watched her interview. I think she's going to be very good. And she's looking for input on the airport. So it's one of the things that I'll bring up when I have a chance to meet with her.
It's nice to have the open ears.
And open dialogue.
And open mind, yeah.
And open minds.
So one of the things that I love most about you and respect is that you are everywhere. You are in the communities that you serve. You're in the trenches. You go to the events. You listen to people. If you could tell our viewers about your office hours, your coffee hours, I mean, you are in all the communities that you serve, and you are so accessible.
I try to be, and I think it's important. I might not always have the answer that a person would like, but I'm always available to give it to them, be it good news or bad news. I was telling you earlier, so I do office hours on the first Friday of the month at the Senior Center. We're there from 8:30 till 10. If I can't make it, which has happened only once or twice, then the very capable Chloe Mitchell, who's sitting right over there in the control room, will be there, my fantastic aide who grew up swimming at the YMCA, as a matter of fact. So we're there every first Friday of the month. I then schedule as I'm able to, either at the Senior Center or the library, or in the case of Wenham, I've shifted to the town hall. But actually this past week I was at the Senior Center. Depends on availability.
Yep.
But I mixed it up, I changed it up in the winter and did coffee hours. And those were great because those were group conversations about everything from housing issues. Housing is a very big topic. Some climate, some transportation. When I met with the group in Wenham, 12 women around a table came to my coffee hour, and all of them spoke of the federal situation. People are one woman said, I live in public housing, I'm on Social Security, and I'm afraid I will lose my home. People are very, very nervous. So it's important to be accessible. So I try to do that. I will be, actually we have another graphic of my upcoming office hours, and we share that on my social media outlets. And so Facebook being the easiest, it's Sally Kerans for State Representative, and we do this, Chloe does a graphic. And
Chloe's magical, we know that. Chloe, you're magical.
Chloe's great. So yeah, it's important to be accessible to people.
So I have a question now. You talked about the women around the table, so I think we really need to talk about pro-choice and the fact that abortion has been outlawed in some states. And I don't know how you feel about this, but as a woman in the United States right now, the fear of losing our right to vote, every time there's something else taken away, that horrifies me. That if we're taking away our choice, does the right to vote come next? Because, I mean, how doable is that?
Well, my feeling is, first of all, I've been an active pro-choice advocate since I was in my 20s. If you had told me...
I wouldn't have believed it, nope.
Neither would I. Oh, Roe v. Wade will never be overturned.
Right.
Here we are,
Yep.
where you cannot access abortion care in the state of Illinois, I think.
I think there's more than one state
Illinois,
right now. There's a few.
Absolutely not legal to get that health care. So I stand with you on that. Here is how I get through questions like, could our right to vote be compromised? I believe we are an enduring democracy. We have, we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the American Revolution. Lots of history locally here, and I encourage people to go to the event the day after Easter, April 19 or 21? 21, thank
right?
you. Where the Danvers Alarm List Company and the Historical Society, Danvers Alarm List will gather at Rebecca Nurse House in the morning. They will proceed to the training field on Center Street, where men walked 250 years ago with heavy muskets, and they walked to Arlington. And they were then met by the British troops who were returning from the battle at Lexington. And they were, 7 of them died in the battle at Menominee. So I think about this history. I think about Massachusetts and the role we played here. Now I have a friend in New Jersey who says, well, okay, you guys got it started, but we had the Battle of Monmouth. So that debate will continue. But my point is that we are an enduring democracy. We have the oldest continuously functioning constitution in the world. And I believe that even as grim as things are, we will not allow Donald Trump or the people in Washington in power right now, the Republicans, we will not allow that to happen. And I'm awfully glad that in Massachusetts we codified the provisions of Roe v. Wade just before I came back this time. In 2018 they did that.
Good.
So that's very encouraging. So take heart.
Yeah, because that's,
Because what else can we do if we're not hopeful?
We can stand too, and I think that is something that I think in the church world, I went to a Super Saturday event for the churches, and interesting to hear the different pastors talk about it, and now is the time to take a stand and not just sit idle. And so if that means you're working with your legislation, if that means we're out, I'm going to say the word protesting very peacefully, whatever we need to do. Because in a time where we are so uncertain, we can have hope, but we also have to take a stand. And I think it's really important, too, that people go vote. We have our town elections coming up May 6th, so make sure you vote, because having the right to vote and having a voice is crucial.
Vote, protest, and do it together.
Oh, absolutely.
Stand together. I went a couple of weeks ago, there was a Boston Women's March, and a friend in Danvers texted me the night before. I hadn't seen it. And she said, are you going to Boston? And I thought, it's been a long week. I'm kind of tired. And I said, I'll see you at 11. And we went. And I was very glad I did. And there were hundreds and hundreds, thousands of people. And it was heartening. And the signs ranged from, my body, my choice, to fight fascism. And you wonder, is this how it felt in Germany and Poland in 1938? So I agree. Vigilance, action, and stay together.
Right. Unity.
Yep. Unity. Very, very important. Very important. And we live in a community where there is a lot of it. I'm grateful for the faith community. Maple Street Church is such an important pillar of our community. Not just in terms of being a church, but a community convener. So thank you for the work that you do, Pastor Doug, Pastor Pam.
Yeah,
just wonderful people.
Magical place. So you are always working on new legislation. So what do you have up and coming that you want to tell us about? You can go to your list.
Thank you.
Everybody, she has a list.
So
Sally came prepared.
Chloe keeps the spreadsheet.
Quite a list of what the legislation they're working on and they're doing.
I'll highlight a few. So first of all, I believe that you can co-sponsor a great bill, and that is just as valuable. I don't always have to be the inventor. I'll give you an example. My good friend Tom Walsh over in Peabody had some conversations about human trafficking. And I came in and immediately co-sponsored a bill with a group called My Life, My Choice.
I've heard of them, yep.
Have you heard of them?
Yep.
Survivor-led group, people who have been in the life of trafficking, They've survived it. Complicated bill, whether we decriminalize partially, fully decriminalize. So I spoke with the chair of the Judiciary Committee, Mike Day, and I said, Mike, where are we on the trafficking bill? He said, well, the advocates can't agree.
Wow.
Now along comes Tom Walsh, who's a very practical human being, and he said, well, why don't we require our motels and lodging places to train their people to notice the signs of someone being trafficked?
Oh.
And he filed it. He has refiled it and kindly invited me to join him at his press conference this past week. I think it was this week. And the Lodging Association was there. The advocates, My Life, My Choice. Very simple bill. Require training of hotel, motel employees. And in legislation, it's so easy for something to get bogged down. Do you know? Because you're putting everything into it. And this is a very simple bill.
Yeah.
And I have hope that it will pass. So I eagerly co-sponsored that. My own legislation that I've worked on and filed, now the screen has gone away. I have one to restore stolen SNAP benefits. Is that about the lowest thing that you can think of?
Yeah, because that's food out of someone's mouth. That is food away from the children. And you know, speaking of SNAP, having taken care of my elderly mother before she passed, she had her SNAP benefits, but they are so low what they get.
Yeah.
And having a mom that lived on Social Security, $1,000 a month, and SNAP was like $32. That's all she got. And it was heartbreaking.
And try to buy some healthy produce.
Right.
You know, some vegetables.
But to have that taken.
And have that taken, stolen. So what's happening is a person goes to the checkout, having
think they had money.
Scheduled their time to know, okay, my deposit went in yesterday, and they find they have zero. So I filed a bill. I'm also working on a budget amendment to restore funding. The Department of Transitional Assistance is working hard on getting better technology. They're still using mag stripes. They need to have the chip technology. But there's only 2 companies that provide it.
And show your ID.
And yes. And show your ID.
Because there's a PIN number.
There's a PIN number, but these are sophisticated crime rings that are carrying out these thefts, and it's really terrible. And it's to the tune of so there are 25,000 people in the Commonwealth who receive SNAP, depend on that for their food, and there's about $1 million a month going out the door in stolen benefits. So
it's heartbreaking.
We want to try to restore that. So that's one bill that I filed. We refiled a bill to establish the Office of the Tenant Advocate in the Office of the Attorney General. And we had the AG's team here at the Senior Center year before last. Jamie Hogue is a close friend of David Mills, actually, and he is the AG's chief of staff. They came, they talked about tenants' rights. Somewhere it's in the possession of DCAT, and it was very helpful, but we feel that a person dedicated only to tenant issues is very important. I've also filed my Dignity Alliance bills. So the Dignity Alliance is a group headed up by Paul Lanzikos, and there might be some people watching who remember Paul Lanzikos.
Yeah.
Former Secretary of Elder Affairs, former head of North Shore Elder Services.
Great guy.
Which we miss terribly. He's a wonderful guy, and he's a great resource. So I filed some nursing home accountability bills with Dignity Alliance. One of them would require a nursing home to get permission before they just put someone on an antipsychotic. And I remember going to see my father up at Hunt Retirement and Nursing, and someone mentioned that, we have him on, I don't know what it was, Abilify or something. I said, really? I don't remember a conversation about that. So that's one that when you bring some personal experience to a bill, it really helps it. And then we have a few on insurance mandates, which are not popular. but I've filed it anyway. One is it would require insurance coverage so that someone with alopecia areata, which is hair loss, it's an autoimmune disease, so it's medical, so that they would be able to use their insurance to get a wig, including children.
It's so expensive to get a wig.
So a good
and
wig.
a good one that looks real and doesn't look like a $5 wig store wig.
Exactly.
And they can't afford it. People going through all those surgeries and procedures or whatever the case may be can't afford it.
They can't afford it. And this to me this should be easier than it has been. So we filed it again. If anybody knows Jordan Walsh of the Boston Celtics, I'm trying to enlist his support. Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley sent testimony in favor of the bill, so we'll keep at it.
That's a great bill.
It's a really good bill, and it's not hard to do. I have a few others in the realm of insurance. I've also filed one to prohibit pre-authorization for prescriptions. But we've made headway in that realm, so we'll see where that one goes. And then the other one is two. One has to do with biennial echocardiograms. And this came from a wonderful family in Danvers who lost their sweet boy, J.J. Rosado. He had a heart episode in the middle of the night. He went and played a hockey game, and he didn't wake up. And his father bravely, courageously came, and I think I met with him and with Ted Spiliotis, who initially filed the bill. So we have refiled that, and I would like to see headway on it. And I'm so grateful to that family for using their loss to try to
help
prevent others from experiencing the same thing. And then we have an athletic trainers bill, and I mention this one because we all love sports in Danvers. This bill, I'm the vice chair of the Public Health Committee, and last year the chair asked me, she said, we work on this bill, meet with these advocates, see what we can work out. So we did, and the bill would allow athletic trainers to work on their own. They would not need to be part of a practice or an organization, which they do now. And as we were working on that bill, the Damar Hamlin episode happened on the football field. I think he was with the Raiders. No, sorry, Ben. The Bills, sorry. Sorry, honey. I'm saying that to my husband, who will be. So he was with the Bills and Raiders? Bills.
You can't change the story now that you've given her the line.
What saved his life were the trainers.
Yeah, they were there.
And they, not only are they there, they know when an injury has occurred, they are the one who can say, safe to go back, needs to wait. So we'll see. They would like to be sort of elevated in their professional...
Independent contractors.
Yes.
Or on their own.
Yes, exactly. So we'll see where that one goes. And then we have everything in the budget awaiting. And then you know what I didn't mention when you said women leading. This is the 25th anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the Women's Caucus of women's legislators. I think I'm the 95th, 7th, 8th. I'm in the top 100 women first elected.
Wow.
When I was elected in 1990, there were maybe 20 women.
Wow.
And now our numbers are, I want to say 60, and we're not quite, we're not half. So we need to get to that point. But there'll be a lot of celebrating around the Women's Caucus. And
that's great.
Just to support issues that, affect women directly. Child care access, health care access, abortion care, elder care. So I turned 65 in 2 months, so I'm now way more attuned to elder issues. So a lot of good work going on, and always more to be done.
Absolutely. So if you could leave our viewers with one thing, one message about hope, prosperity, or the great work that you're doing, what would you let everybody know? how they want to get involved?
I do appreciate hearing from people, even when things are going well, but even when they're not. Let me hear from you. We recently I heard from an old friend on the gas bills. And she's a good friend. Hey, Sal, hope everything is going okay. What in the name of God is going on with these gas bills? So in that case, a bunch of us, every legislator was getting
those calls
incoming on that. 80 of us went to the DPU and said, this is outrageous, this is too much, and they rolled it back. Now, we don't set the rates.
Right.
The DPU, the Department of Public Utilities, does that, but the budget for Mass Save has been reduced. I know that in the climate world that is mixed news, but if you are a working family or on your own, and you make less than $50,000 and you get a $500 gas bill, which my daughter did, that hurts. That is real economic pain. Yes. Yeah. So please let me hear from you. And, in terms of going forward and everything in Washington, we are a resilient democracy, but we do need to stand up. We cannot allow this to be normalized. It is not normal to handpick someone to dismantle years of thoughtful, well-functioning government. And we need to be mindful of our neighbors who are living in fear, maybe not going to work, maybe not sending their kids to school because they're afraid.
Not going to the grocery store, they won't go anywhere.
Right. So we can do better. We can do better.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Sally, for taking the time to meet with us today. As always, it is a pleasure.
Thank you, Gayla. Always a pleasure to be here. Thank you, DCAT, the whole team, Ben and Greg and Ginny.
And got volunteers
and Owen,
in there.
And you've got, yes, exactly.
And Jim.
And
Quill. Everybody's in there. And Chloe. You're Chloe. Hi, you're Chloe. She's so cute.
It's a big team. Big team today. So thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Make sure you join us next time, Danvers, as we meet with some more wonderful community leaders doing great things for us all over Danvers. Till next time, Danvers.